bed was a narrow platform under the eaves of the Osman building. In it, she felt like the goblin visiting the student in Andersen's fairy tale. The beams were a foot from her head and shed wood dust. For the first 10 days, she wheezed and woke twice a night shouting, dreaming she was being buried alive. When she went to London for the visa interview, she bought 4 meters of white cotton in an Indian shop in Wembley. She swaddled the dark beams and fixed the cloth with drawing pins. The dreams and the coughing stopped. The flat was 19 meters square, a figure she possessed with as much authority as her own measurements of height or weight. Studios are often 20 meters square. This one is small, but it has everything, said the landlord, Monsieur Touchery. He was a psychiatrist, a good-looking auburn-haired man with bright blue eyes and a yellow smile. He lived on the 4th floor, and Leela went there every month to pay the rent in cash. He would invite her in. For reasons she didn't understand, Monsieur Touchery, not doctor, but Monsieur, he said, told her of his history. His mother was Norwegian. Is this working? Yeah. That explained the colouring of his 2 sons, pretty children of white blonde hair, fair skin, and the same bright blue eyes. The flat on the 4th floor had been in his family for some time. He had, he explained, bought 3 of the chambres de bonne on the 6th floor when they came up for sale in recent years. Now he rented them out. Leela was lucky, he said. The others had shared bathrooms, but hers was self-contained. It was an odd shape. Rather than being square, it was a parallelogram with a thin arm attached. In the parallelogram was a living room with a bookshelf, a green plastic television set, a cheap blue carpet, a desk, a folding chair, and a floor cushion. A single heavy window gave onto the narrow inner courtyard and looked across at another such window. There was no view but sky and the other window. Above the bookshelf, below the beams, was the blue-painted sleeping platform, reached by climbing a small wooden ladder. The platform was L-shaped. Leela stepped near the ladder, slung against the external wall. On the other side was the slender corridor that ran down the 6th floor's maids' rooms. Here, lying in bed in the morning, masturbating serially, falling asleep midway, then starting again, trying to work up the energy to begin the day, a period of time that when she didn't have an early class could persist until lunch. She heard the other inhabitants of the 6th floor hurrying out. Most were students. There was a Chinese man in his 30s, a foreign white man, where from she didn't know, and a young Chinese girl. Monsieur Touchery's tread, more assured and heavier, theatrically careful, could also be heard from time to time, though she was relieved that he didn't often call on her. When she got up, she would slide down the ladder, a move that became automatic, and go into the cramped, white-tiled kitchen area, which held a small stove, a steel sink, a drop-leaf table, 2 chairs, a mop, and a blue and white kettle that she'd bought at the Monoprix on the boulevard. She would make coffee and stare out of the window. In the studio, everything needed for living had somehow been accommodated. Because it was well appointed, she tried to spend time in it as though it had been another space. On Sundays, she bought newspapers and croissants and sat on the living room floor to eat breakfast and read. Quickly, the size of the place would begin to weigh on her. Rebelling against the obvious, she'd stay there. She'd turn on the television or read one of the fat paperbacks she'd bought, Les Misérables, Volume 1 and 2. They were issued by different publishers, so there was a gap between the 2 volumes. A lacuna that finally put paid to her desire to improve her French and follow the depressing fate of the convict Jean Valjean. She'd drink too much coffee or overeat. She would use the telephone and call her sister, who was usually out, or a friend. She'd imagine in great detail the things she would do later, and pore over listings in the Bahiscope. She'd drink cheap wine, or smoke cigarettes she didn't enjoy, then worry for her health. It would begin to be dark outside, the sky fading through the heavy, viewless window, and the light of the window opposite coming on and brightening. It gave onto a room where often a man was standing, staring straight across, as though facing his fate. Leela would sometimes meet his eye when she stood at the sink, washing her cup. It dawned on her only after weeks that the facing room was the shared toilet, and that the man who occasionally turned to look into her face was holding his penis and urinating. Thank you.